So today we're going to be talking about how to structure your agency properly. And there's really two questions that we want to have answered by the end of this. Number one, how can we create productized flow? And we'll kind of get into that later on in the presentation. And then number two, how to optimize your delivery system. And your delivery system is just your agent's fulfillment of client services. And that means the end-to-end process that goes in from strategy to delivery, and not really just optimizing the individual parts, but optimizing the system as a whole. And this leads us into creating two different structures: service lines, and if you sell multiple businesses, pods, which I'll talk about. So first, let's talk about functions, and let's talk about service lines. What is a function? I'm going to use email here as an example because it's a very productized service, but this holds true no matter what you're selling at your agency. Typically, email agencies will separate their business into different functions. And as you can see in this slide, we've broken them out into 4 different functions, and this is hypothetical agency we're looking at. And you might have a strategy department, which has a manager who is managing the strategists. We might have a copy department who has a copy manager that's managing the copy department, the design department, and we might also have a builder department. This only seems logical as you think that you'd want a strategist managing a team of strategists to optimize strategy. Or maybe you think you'd want a copywriter to manage a team of copywriters that are working with each other so you can optimize that function. But this is going to create a lot of issues. Number one, it's going to create silos as each area is only going to optimize for itself. So the head of strategy, the strategy manager, is only going to be optimizing for strategy regardless of how that impacts the other functions, which is bad. Number two, this is going to inhibit the flow of work, and it's going to increase lead times as you have to wait like who knows how long when you submit a task for one function to the next. So if you're submitting a task from strategist, it now goes to copy, and it's kind of a black box, right? And number three, it's going to increase errors and revisions, which are really the hidden killer of agency profitability, as each function is going to have its own rules and its own way of doing things. So there's no cohesive strategy amongst all the different functions to properly work as a system. Now on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have what are called service lines. And service lines are how I recommend that you set up your agency. And a service line is just going to be a team that has end-to-end responsibility and accountability for delivering work product to a client. And the service line should have everyone and everything they need to deliver a finalized project to a customer. And it should have one cross-trained leader who's an expert in each of the functions so he can coach the team as well as hold them accountable. And with this model, each deliverable can be moved from one person to the next without interruption, which is going to decrease your errors, it's going to decrease your revisions, it's going to decrease your lead times, and ultimately it's going to improve profitability. And you can see how in this example we have the one email manager at the top, and we have a strategist, a copywriter, designer, and then someone who's building the emails as well as handling the data. And this is very typically what a service line will look like. So to overview, breaking up your team by functions is going to be suboptimal for the whole system, even if it might optimize each individual function a little bit better. Creating service lines is going to help to productize your business and create flow so you have a team who has a complete vision over their work product with one leader who can coach and build that whole team. And I want to point out that this is a simplified version of this. So you might have junior people in a service line, for example, who are helping one or more people in that service line. So maybe you have a junior strategist who's helping a strategist, or maybe you just have a junior person who is cross-trained to help all those other people in that service line. You might also combine different roles if you have people who are cross-trained, especially if this will help increase your output. So for instance, say that design and building takes the least amount of time in this. Maybe you have one person who does design as well as builds data so that you help optimize the total output of this team. But the main point is end-to-end accountability for a process and no black holes for work product to be stuck in. All right, now let's talk about shared services versus client pods. So if you're a full service agency or you're selling multiple services, you're going to deal with this issue all the time. Who should work on what client? And what we typically see is shared services. In this model, there's usually not much rhyme or reason for someone to work on client 1 or client 2 other than maybe the ability of a team member or their preference. Like maybe your design guy really likes working on accessory brands, so he works on all the accessory brands that you get. In agencies with shared services, you might have a paid media person who's working with a creative person on one brand, and then maybe another creative person on the next brand. And maybe email works with 3 different paid media people. And this kind of creates a nightmare for internal and external communication. And there's no real true team here that has a common goal for our clients. So I recommend that we use client pods. And pods are cross-functional teams that all work together on the same group of clients. Meaning, for a group of example 5 clients, you have 1 paid media team, you might have 1 email team, and 1 creative team. And then for the next 5 clients, you're going to have a separate team that handles those clients as well. And the team from those 3 service lines are now working together on the same group of clients, meaning they're now a pod of people who have a common goal of scaling the same clients, and they can work together more efficiently and more effectively because the lines of communication aren't constantly being crossed. And when you put them together, you get service lines and pods. And the service lines have everything they need to do that particular service, and the pods have everything they need to serve a specific group of clients. This is the best way that I currently know how to set up your agency structure, and I'd highly recommend implementing both service lines and pods if you're able to in your agency.